All right, folks. Welcome to the Results 2.0 plugin package YouTube walkthrough. This is going to be the first plugin built for the new SDK plugin system. It's going to make this a whole lot easier and a whole lot more intuitive moving forward. So first thing you're going to want to do is unzip the zip file and put it somewhere you know where it's going to be. Next up, we're going to go into our iRacing live timing. Open the settings, come down here to plugins under the overlay section. Click the ellipses to open up the plugin editor. It's a little different than the last time you used it probably, but trust me, it's going to be easier. We're going to come down and click on import. You're going to find that results 2.0.iRacing live timing plugin file and open it up. Now everything is going to come with it. So the first tab, details tab, is just going to have some descriptions, some helpful notes about how this plugin works, some of the limitations. There's some instructions here on how to make themes permanent. We'll talk about that in just a minute. You don't need to do anything to the initialize, dispose, flush, or update tabs. That's all the code that makes the plugin work. And now all the stylings are actually stored in the styling tab, so you don't need to copy and paste these into your big style overrides file. You can keep them here and turn them on and off with the plugin and make adjustments and keep it organized. So a lot easier there. And then the remote control components are actually bundled in with the plugin file right here. This results 2.0. So next thing we're going to do is come down here and hit add to remote control. And that is automatically going to add the remote control section for this results plugin right here, this pink section. So we're going to try this out. Why don't we look at that remote control panel first? So there's 3 columns. The leftmost column has show and hide. It also lets you select the session and the class filter. This is exactly the same as the built-in results component. So those self-populate as the sessions finish and based on your class overrides and the iRacing classes and whatnot. Then the middle column is the data. You get to choose one of these to be featured in the results list. And then there are theme variants. We'll come to that kind of at the end because that's not necessary to mess with at first, but can help you set up your stylings to get started. So if we hit show, I'm going to select race, session, and overall class and hit show. And that's going to bring up the default formatting race results. So kind of starting on the left-hand side, you've got 2 logo containers, left and right. This goes in this top section. It says race results or qualifying or practice, whatever you're doing. And then your title, that's the same title that comes out of your race info tab settings and whatnot. Usually that's race name for me. It might be your league name or whatever you set it to. Then your top 3 drivers are shown on a podium with laps led, if that's a valid piece of data for the leader, and then the gap from the leader to the second and third place cars, as well as their car rendering there on the podium. Then there are a mixture of, we'll call these stat cards on the bottom left. These change depending on the type of class or the type of session you're using, but for full race results here in a road race, you're going to see these 8. So you're going to have the track info, the type of track it is, or the configuration, the length, how long the race was under race info with laps and distance. You're going to see lead changes and how many different leaders. Now, right now, this is based on the SDK lead changes definition, which is currently only green flag. So any changes under caution for a NASCAR race won't get counted here. So if you see something like 2 lead changes but 6 different leaders, that just means those other 4 leaders took the lead under like a caution pit cycle or something like that. But I think this definition might be updated soon to include caution pit cycle changes as one versus like swapping on pit road. Anyway, you'll see that coming up. Then there's a little bit about track state, air temp, track temp, the cloud cover, and the track moisture kind of a state at the moment. For a NASCAR race, this will show the number of cautions and caution laps run, or for an oval race, that is. Then there are 4 driver superlative cards In the middle, the hard charger, that's who gained the most positions, the most laps led, the fastest lap, and who started on the pole for the race. Then on the right-hand side of the screen is your full results list. This is going to have position, driver, and then the data field, and then the gap to the leader. And so now we can go through and kind of show you the different data sections. Remember, this is on the remote control panel. You can select which data you want. So starting with multi-car team, if the driver has a multi-car team set up, either through their driver information app or through your driver overrides, that'll show up here. You can also show their class if you're looking at overall multi-class results, their iRating gain and loss, their incident points, number of laps led, what car they're driving, the starting position, their best lap time, how many pit stops they made. This would probably be more relevant in longer endurance races, and then when that last pit stop was, so you can see just how long they went on fuel, etc. In this race, this was kind of short, so only one driver pitted. If you switch to qualifying or practice, like I said, a lot of those stat cards on the left will disappear because things like number of cautions or number of laps led, they're just not relevant in a practice or qualifying. But if you are looking at a race result or a heat result, you're going to see all of the cards like we were showing before. And then you can also filter by class. So if you filter by class, you're going to see the results limit themselves to who you're looking at, and it'll tell you what class you've filtered to in the top right. If you switch to one of the slower classes, 2 stat cards will disappear. One of them is most laps led, and the other is the green flag lead changes. And that's because the way iRacing results are stored, they do not count leading laps for the slower classes. So those 2 will disappear because they would just show 0 anyway. But you can filter down to the class, still see the gap to the class leader on the right-hand side, and all the other relevant information per usual. And again, these should populate based on what your working. It looks like I've got my class's name backwards here, but as long as you have your class overrides set correctly, the names will show correctly, whether it's the P217 or the IMSA 23 class. And then yeah, so pretty easy. It's designed to be full screen on a 1080p resolution. If you're using 1440, that you can use a transform perspective and then translate in the z-axis. I think if you do 1000 perspective and 250 translate, that will take you to full screen on a 1440 setup. You don't have to use it full screen though, whatever works for you. I like it full screen, kind of after the drivers finish their victory burnouts. There's not much to look at the track, usually just that blimp static cam, and you can see that through the transparent background of the default styling. If we start to kind of play around with the styling a little bit, a lot of the default styling is tied to this theme color. Oh, hold on, let me hide the overlay so you can see what I'm talking about. In the styling tab of the plugins editor, right at the top is this theme color. This lets you change what is the highlighting color. So right now it's this crimson color. We can just change it to something like purple and see how that looks. There it goes. You can use that to match your branding for your channel or for your league or whatever logos you're using to make it look good. Now, if you're looking for something a little more, you want to spice it up even further, I have included, in addition to the default template, 10 other styles you can play around with. You can piecemeal them together and do what you want, or you can, go in here and edit them all yourself. So we'll just kind of run through them right now. This is Gold, Cyber, Wolverine, Rain, Heritage. I really like the Heritage if you're running like those old Lotuses or something in a kind of antique style race, a throwback. Velocity, Stealth. Stealth is it kind of fully blacks out and keeps things simple. It still shows that theme color, but this would be good for screenshots for your social media and things. There's one that kind of looks like an old school Fox sports style. There's one with some dirt tones if you're doing some dirt racing, just some nice browns. And then one that is kind of in the modern NBC theme. It's really just a lot of blues and yellows. And like I said, you can kind of choose which of these you want to do. You can use them in combination. So the way you have to toggle them is to click. If you want to turn something off, you have to hit the off button next to it in the remote panel. Again, just reminding you what that looks like. So as I'm switching to different ones, I'm hitting rain, then I'm turning rain off. I'm hitting Wolverine, turning Wolverine off, etc. And then if I go back to the plugin editor and kind of look at how that styling is done, like I said, you can change that theme color up here, but there are, as you scroll down, a lot of these names hopefully make some sense if you want to get into the custom styling. This is really broken down into a podium, stat cards, and then the results list on the right. So the names somewhat make sense if you see something like RS stat value. That's going to be the first line of text in those stat cards, labels, the car images, etc. So if you can customize this, a lot of this is set up just so that it fits on the screen and everything looks nice together. But if you want to get into the themes and customizing them, they're scroll down. You can see them all here. So velocity, stealth, and whatever. They're pretty easy to notice. And I put this in the details notes here. If you want to make these permanent, so every time you load up SDK, it's going to start with the default theme, and you'll have to enable these theme variants. But if there's one you like and you want to stick with, or you want to make some edits, what you need to do is remove the dynamic styling rules from the CSS, and that is basically this dot overlay dot whatever that dynamic rule is. So for example, if you want to make the stealth changes permanent, this is how it looks to begin with, and you're just going to remove dot overlay dot stealth from the front of these, and it's going to become this, and that will make those changes permanent and by default when you open the project file. I'm trying to think, what else did I forget? This is compatible with oval, dirt, road, multi-class, like I said, but some of the stats and data won't apply to certain things. So if you're running dirt race, you're not going to get caution laps, because usually you don't count caution laps in dirt racing. So that card will disappear for dirt and things like that. The plugin is compatible with replay files. So if you open a replay file, all of the results are there. You don't they're kind of accessible from the beginning, but some of the stat cards are not. So things like lead changes, number of cautions, if you're watching back a NASCAR style race, those are not going to populate unless you actually play through the replay, because that's just the way the data gets stored. It has to be re-recorded each time you watch the replay to get those. So if you're opening up a replay file, just be aware that some of the stats might not be accurate unless you play through the race to get them. Otherwise, yeah, have fun with this one. It's pretty fun. I had a lot of fun making it, just trying to make it an all-inclusive results, something that combines the actual results on the right with those stats and things you can see in iRacing post-race. The other thing I didn't mention is if there are more than 20 drivers in your results list, the top 10 will be locked on screen, and then all the other drivers will be scrolling through pages of 10 beneath them, and they're on like a 5-second timer or something like that, so everybody can see where they are while you're doing post-race interviews or whatever you do to wrap up your race. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope it's a lot easier to install now that we're in this new plugin system that brings the remote controls and the styling with it and keeps it organized for you. And kind of looking forward to see what everyone does with this to customize it for their own show. So thank you again for watching and for supporting Collateral Damage Sports Network plugins.